Welcome. I'm Andy Phillips, and this is The Journey Inside. For a number of years, I've been writing and working on picture books, middle grade novels, songs about, with, and for children, and my debut novel, In Jake's Shoes. I'd like to give you a bit of background and context as it relates to the writing of that story and to the creation of this podcast. In the early 1980s, my mother died rather suddenly from cancer. I felt like a light had gone out. As I struggled to cope with the loss of my mother and how to keep her light on, I needed some way to bring meaning to her death, something that would honor the light inside that made her such a special person in my life. I decided I wanted to write about it, but didn't feel like a personal journal or a memoir was my route. At the time, my wife Judy and I were team teaching in early childhood multi-age classrooms. I was seeing and working with young children, plus my own daughters, every day. As I watched them and spent time with them, I found myself wondering how they might cope with the same kind of struggle I was going through. One night at home, I sat at my desk in my small office. We had created one from an oversized closet. It suddenly came to me. I decided I'd write as though I were a young boy who had just lost his grandmother, with whom he had developed a very special bond. He secretly writes letters to her, telling her how much he misses her, shares both his sad and happy days, his struggles at home and at a new school, letters that honor her by acknowledging the positive impact she had on his life. These simple letters eventually served as the springboard for my novel, In Jake's Shoes, a story about a normal family going through the normal struggles of learning to live each day together. In the story, a father and son develop a strained relationship as the father struggles to see life through his son's eyes. The two drift apart until it takes the wisdom and soul of a deceased grandmother, the discovery of a notebook of secret letters, and the death of the son to change everything. I'd like to read an excerpt from the first letter he wrote. Sunday, December 24th, 1995. Dear Gammy Gat, I need to talk to somebody. It's got to be somebody who will listen to every word and won't tell me not to say what I want to say or not to feel what I'm feeling. So I decided to write you a letter. Because you're in heaven, I'm hoping God gives grandparents special superpowers so you can hear the words your grandkids might write to you. By the way, it's me, Jake, your grandson, and it's Christmas Eve. I have a bunch to tell you. A lot of stuff has happened since you died. I miss you a lot. Yes, it's the first thing I want to say. At the end of this letter and all of his letters, Jake adds, P.S. I love you, Gammy Gat. With that in mind, I invite you to step into Jake's world with me for a little while. Over the years I spent writing it as a teacher, a parent, a principal, and ultimately now as a grandfather. My grandkids call me Poppy. Jake's story reflects what I tried to capture when I also wrote stories and songs about, with, and for children. It explores all that stuff we deal with every day. The feelings, the relationships, words, memories, and stories that take us on our own life journeys, and how learning to see through each other's eyes and walk in each other's shoes ensures we are all a part of one big family, which means this podcast, The Journey Inside, is for our children, but I want the listeners to be you, adults, teachers, and parents. I'd like to share one of my own eye and heart opening awarenesses. As a school principal, I knew that the school family and our children's families needed to work together. I knew that our students spent nearly as many awake hours with us as they did at home. parents entrusted us with their children and delegated certain responsibilities and authority to us. With that in mind, I also knew that sometimes we provided the best few hours of living that some of our students spent on any given day. I can still see myself after carpool duty starting off my day by walking the halls. Pretty lively places full of kids scrambling to get where they needed to go or needed to be, with faces full of every emotion you could imagine. And it wasn't too hard to pick out the grumpy ones, the ones with chips on their shoulders or something on their minds bugging them. Kids clearly out of sorts. Kids more than likely who would begin acting out. My first reaction, like I'll bet many of you who are teachers, was that something must have gone wrong at home or something happened on the bus or just something unrelated to school. But I came to understand and admit that this was a narrow view, that we probably had blinders on. We looked at them only through our eyes, which meant that we needed to take a journey and see the light through our children's eyes. So I challenged myself and my teachers to consider, was it possible for a child to come in unhappy, not because something happened at home, because they were anxious about what their day was going to be like at school? Sometimes it may have been even a combination of both. I'd like to read another excerpt from one of Jake's letters. For me, writing it was a way to shine a light on what I had to believe were the kinds of thoughts going through our children's minds every day. In essence, I decided I needed to be the light, to see the light in our children. Here's the excerpt. Dear Gammy Gap, Ms. Murray embarrassed me on Friday in front of everybody. She asked me if I was paying attention. I was sitting, doing nothing wrong. I wasn't bothering anybody. I was thinking about stuff. Mama left on Saturday to go on a business trip for a couple of days. When she gets back, we're all going to the circus. We haven't been in at least 100 years. I was thinking about Daddy telling us we have to clean our rooms when we get home after school. I was thinking about seeing if Randy could spend the night sometime. I was thinking Daddy says my hair is too long. I was thinking we've got clothes to wash because I'm not going to wear those pants Mama bought for me without my permission. Anyway, I already knew how to do those math problems on the board. Like Marshall and his wife Millie in Jake's Shoes, as adults, we're the ones who have the power in our children's lives. How we use it sometimes scares me to death and gives me that shiver my mother used to tell me was a rabbit running down my back. But this means we have the power to go on that journey inside, to travel inside the minds of our children, to learn to walk in their shoes. If you're recalling memories right now, you're going on that same journey. You see the light inside your own children. I want to say thanks again for stepping into Jake's story, his world, and for joining me on this, my first episode of The Journey Inside, and allowing me to share a little bit about myself as an author, a storyteller, and a dreamer. I'm especially proud to share that my daughter Stacy produces the podcasts. In future episodes, in addition to stories, thoughts, dreams, and experiences, I'll be featuring some of those songs about, with, and for children that I mentioned earlier. And I'm very excited to let you know that members of my family will gather around to help with my songs. I'll fill you in on who they are in the next episode. I'd also like you to know that In Jake's Shoes can now be pre-ordered by going to andrewcphillips.com, clicking on books, scrolling down until you see pre-order your copy, and clicking. I hope you'll consider this as an invitation to take that journey home with you. So, till next time, take care.